The manga begins with the main character, Jirei Laro, who wants to be a hero. He dreams of holding a shining holy sword, defeating demons, taking down the demon lord, marrying the kingdom's princess, and finally becoming the king to live a happy life. That's what he used to dream about when he was little. But now, that's all in the past. Someone knocks on Jirei's door. A girl asks if he can join her party. Jirei is surprised, and the girl is smiling happily at him. He stares at her for a moment, then closes the door, saying he does not want to join. The girl is shocked and starts hitting the door. Jirei gets annoyed by the noise. He opens the door again and asks what she wants, warning her that if she does not quiet down, he will report her to the knights. The girl says she is not trying to sell anything or recruit him into a religious group. Jirei asks what she wants, then tries to close the door again, but the girl pushes it open and introduces herself. Her name is Retinoa Innocent, and she says her close friends call her Reti. While trying to stop the door from closing, she accidentally breaks it. Jirei asks if she will pay him back for breaking it. Retinoa says she will pay him back and even has something better to offer. She tells him to join the Attack Heroes party. She promises him a better place to live and says that cute girls will follow if he joins. She says the benefits are amazing. Jirei finds her suspicious, but remembers hearing about the Attack Hero. If someone is chosen by a holy sword, a holy mark appears somewhere on their body and they become a hero. The Attack Hero was chosen by the holy sword Grandu, and her name is Retinoa Innocent. This generation has produced a lot of heroes, enough to go into the double digits. Jirei remembers hearing about a new hero with black hair, which is rare. The misunderstanding about black hair is annoying to him. Retinoa smiles at Jirei, hoping he will accept, but Jirei asks her why someone like her would invite someone like him. He wonders if she has the wrong person. He pulls out his adventurer card from his shirt and shows her that he is a D-rank adventurer. But Retinoa says she has the right person. She asks if he really does not remember her. Jirei is confused. Retinoa moves her hair around, trying to jog his memory. Finally, Jirei remembers. 5 years ago, when he was over hunting great bears, he saved her from an attack. He pauses, thinking about what he said back then. Retinoa says she looked up to him ever since and wanted to become a hero. She still remembers what he said before he left. Retinoa repeats his words, how he told her not to cry because only weaklings cry. If she cannot hold it in, she should become a hero. If she becomes a hero, she will not be weak anymore and will not need to cry. She should make her dreams come true and to become a hero himself. He would laugh instead of crying. Jirei yells at her to stop talking about his dark and cringy past. He tells her to forget it all and shakes her by the shoulders. But Retinoa says she thinks what he said was great. She tells him that when she saw him in town, she thought it was fate. She recognized his face right away. Even back then, he had those cloudy eyes. Jirei tells her that since she is a hero, she does not need someone like him in her party, and asks why she wants him. Retinoa says that being in a party with him has always been her goal. Jirei is surprised. She asks for his answer, but he says again that he will not join. Retinoa smiles and Jirei thinks it is over, but she says she did not hear him. Jirei yells that she clearly did. He keeps refusing, but she keeps pretending not to hear. She keeps bugging him to join. After a long time, Jirei finally gives in and says yes. Retinoa gets happy, but Jirei says it will only be for a little while. She says 50 years is fine. Jirei asks if she knows what a little while means. He says he will join until her first achievement, and Retinoa agrees. She says he should stay in the party until the Demon Lord is defeated and the world is saved. She says she is happy to have him in the party. Jer is shocked, but her face is so happy that he cannot say anything. He asks what the party is called. Retinoa says they should name it the Black-Haired Hero because Jirei has black hair. Jirei tells her he will leave an application form at the guild and asks if she can come another day. She agrees and leaves, saying she will come back soon. After she leaves, Jirei says it is time to run away. He thinks she must be joking about defeating the Demon Lord. He really did want to become a hero once. To do that, he drank a lot of bad-tasting potions to boost his magic power. He kept improving both his magic and sword skills. He went on adventures that nearly got him killed. He spent 10 years eliminating demons. He waited for the holy mark to appear on his body. Once that happened, he would finally become a hero. He kept waiting. He never really admired heroes. He just wanted to become king and live a good life. His plan was simple: become a hero, beat the demon lord, get crowned king, and live every day doing nothing while everyone else worked for him. But one day, while eating in a tavern, he overheard people talking. They said, "Heroes have it rough. They fight demons every day without proper rest." Someone else said that it was thanks to the heroes and knights that they enjoy peace. Another person said he once wanted to be a hero, but heard that even kings stay just as busy, so nothing really changes. Someone laughed and said, "There is no way someone who drinks and fools around with women during the day would ever become a hero." After hearing that, Jirei gave up on the idea. He thought about all the time and effort he spent and how useless it was. Then he decided to just earn enough to live and spend his time however he wanted. Jirei runs away to the central town in the Universia Kingdom, Hiroyusville, thinking there are so many people here that Retinoa will never find him. As he looks around, he notices there are way more people than usual and wonders if some kind of event is going on. Out of nowhere, someone bumps into him hard. The person quickly apologizes and asks if he is okay. Jirei also apologizes, saying he was careless and probably walked into her by mistake. He notices her hair is white, which is rare. But then again, he has black hair, and that's not common either. She apologizes again and runs off. As she leaves, Jer spots something on the ground that looks like a necklace with a gem in the center. He picks it up and decides he'll drop it off at the knight's office after he's done shopping. When he walks into a store, he hears people shouting and making a lot of noise. Someone yells that Princess Rafine has been spotted nearby. Jirei figures out that today must be the one day each month when the fourth princess of the country is allowed to walk around town. She seems really popular, but Jirei heads back to his room and decides that the princess has nothing to do with him. He lies down on his bed and thinks about how nice it feels. After a month of doing nothing, he checks his money bag and sees that it's empty. All he has left is 500 reen, which is really bad. He won't even have enough to pay for his room tonight. He decides to take on a request and heads to the Adventurer Guild. There, he finds a job escorting a client and protecting them from monsters and bandits. The reward is 250,000 ren, which seems like a great deal. He notices a carriage will be prepared for the trip and figures it'll take 5 days to reach Ital. After that, he can relax again. He wonders why the client's name isn't listed, but the quest doesn't have a rank requirement and the reward is solid, so he decides to go for it. He brings the request to the secretary. He then heads to the meeting spot to meet the others who will be helping with the job. When he arrives, he sees Retinoa among them. He freezes, but she turns around, notices him, and smiles. She says it's been a while and mentions that he never turned in his application at the guild, so she brought one for him to sign. Jirei asks why she's in the capital and starts realizing that his plan to relax and take it easy might not be so simple after all. Retinoa says they also have business in Idle, which is why they accepted this request. She insists that it must be fate and hands Jirei the application form asking him to join her party. Jirei disagrees and says it is not fate and that he still does not want to join. One of Retinoa's friends asks if he is the one she has been talking about. Both of them stare at Jirei while Retinoa claims that he is really strong. Jirei realizes the two girls must have already been working with Retinoa before taking this request, so they have probably been friends for a while now. One of the girls doubts his strength and checks him out, saying he does not seem strong. Retinoa admits it may look that way, pointing out his dull eyes, lack of aura, and lazy attitude, but still says he is powerful. Jirei wonders if she is just making fun of him. One of her friends asks for his name. Retinoa is shocked because she does not know it either. They ask why she never learned his name. Jirei introduces himself and says that his hobby and specialty is sleeping. Retinoa reintroduces herself as the attack hero and shares that she likes sweet snacks but hates vegetables, which might explain her short height. One of her friends is named Eve Dulcus, who stays quiet, and the other is Lena and Tietman, an A-rank mage who is part of Retinoa's party. Jirei is surprised to hear an A-rank adventurer is in her group and thinks she must be really strong. He considers asking something about Lena's last name, but holds back. In the past, he beat up someone with the same name, red hair, and elf ears. That person was part of a hot-blooded family of assassins. Jirei thinks it would be a hassle if Lina turns out to be troublesome too, so he decides to keep his distance. Retinoa then says they should settle things by majority vote to decide if their master, Jirei, should join the party. Jirei gets annoyed and asks who she is calling master, telling her to stop. Lina and Eve say they do not mind either way. Retinoa happily declares that with 3 against 1, it is settled. Jirei points out that Eve said she does not care, which is not the same as wanting him to join. Retinoa insists Eve does want him to join and even pulls down Eve's hood, saying she just has an emotionless face. She says they should let Eve decide for real. Jirei is certain someone like Eve, who sees him as a D rank with gloomy eyes, would never want him to join. But Eve just says it is fine either way and walks off clearly annoyed. Jirei feels bad for upsetting her, but Lina tells him that she is always like that and not to worry. Jirei looks around and realizes the client has not shown up yet. Then someone suddenly pushes him aside. The person greets Retinoa and says it has been a while. Introducing himself as Kane Staltz, a B-rank adventurer. He claims it is fate that they are meeting here, saying that high-status people like him and Retinoa are connected by destiny. Jirei wonders if Kane knows Retinoa personally, but her face shows she has no clue who he is. Kane turns to Jirei and says he has been curious for a while now, asking why a D-rank adventurer like Jirei is here with them. Jirei replies that he accepted the request, but Kane says that is not what he meant. Kane, who is the 3rd son of the Schultz family, says he will explain in simple terms so someone lower than him can understand. He questions why Jirei is on a quest meant for C and B ranks. Jirei admits the escort mission may be hard for someone of his rank, but points out that the quest paper clearly said rank is not important. Kane accuses Jirei of being the kind of low-rank adventurer who leeches off others and tries to earn easy money while the rest do the real work. He says he hates people like that. Kane pulls out his coin pouch, throws it on the ground, and tells Jirei to take it. Other adventurers nearby start to watch the scene. Retinoa looks like she wants to step in, but Jirei stops her. Kane tells Jirei that after picking up the money, he should leave the quest since he is useless. He claims low-rank adventurers are just trash. Jirei says he might be someone who wants money and maybe even acts like trash. But there are D-rank adventurers who are smarter about medicinal herbs or monster dissection than anyone else. Some donate all their money to orphanages. Jirei says none of those people are trash. Kane looks stunned. Kane says it does not matter what trash says. They are still trash, and tells Jirei to pick up the money and go. Jirei feels angry, but crouches down and starts picking it up anyway, saying that his wallet is empty. As he picks up the coins, he says he does not need the money, but someone like Kane definitely does. Kane laughs and says that as the 3rd son of the Schultz family, the money he threw is nothing to him. Jirei responds that Kane must need the money since he is not even eligible to become head of his own family. Jirei tosses the money back at Kane, suggesting he use it to buy some tea cakes and suck up to the client. He mocks Kane for getting to B rank thanks to his family, sarcastically calling him a great adventurer. Kane gets furious, draws his sword, and tries to strike Jer. Right before Kane's sword can hit him, a mysterious person suddenly speaks, telling them to calm down. The blade stops. The person tells them both to stay quiet and instructs Kane to lower his weapon. The mysterious woman tells them not to say a word and to put down the sword. Kane's body moves on its own, and his sword drops to the ground. Jirei realizes that she's using word magic, which is extremely powerful and can't be learned without talent. The woman has black hair like Jirei, but is using a ring of transformation to hide her true appearance. And Jirei wonders who she really is. She says she'll give them a chance to explain themselves and uses her word magic so Kane can speak. Kane yells at her to lift the magic and demands if she knows who he is, claiming to be the 3rd son of the Schultz family. Before he can finish, she says that she's the one who put in the escort request to Ital and that her name is Fina. Fina says she was told the Stoltz family would send someone useful, but she must have misheard because Kane doesn't seem useful at all. Kane is shocked. Fina says she won't cancel the contract this time because of the family's reputation, but warns him that if it happens again, she'll report him. Kane looks scared. Then Fina turns to Jirei and says it's his turn to explain. Jirei asks why he should, but Fina says that even though Kane drew his sword, Jirei made things worse by provoking him. She says she has more to talk about with him and tells him to ride in the same carriage as her. Jirei is surprised and Rei gets excited, saying that her master is getting close to the client. Jirei says it's not exciting and just means more lectures. The group gets ready to head to it and Jirei joins Fina in the carriage. He introduces himself and speaks formally, but Fina tells him to drop the honorifics and just call her Fina. She says she doesn't want to lecture him, just ask some questions. She asks if he knows anyone from his hometown or friend group who has black hair and wears a mask. Jirei says no, and that he was the only one with black hair in his hometown. Fina looks disappointed, and Jirei thinks she's interested in him because of his hair. He mentions hearing about the black-haired hero chosen in Italy, and Fina suddenly stands. She says he's right, and that she's sure it's him this time. She looks excited and says she's finally going to meet her fated person. Then she notices Jirei staring at her, gets embarrassed, and sits down again. Jirei figures out that she used the escort request to go meet the black-haired hero. Fina admits it, but says she's not sure if it's really the same person. When he asks why the quest paper didn't have the client's name, Fina says she couldn't reveal her social standing, and that the name she gave them isn't her real name. She apologizes. Jirei says it's fine and looks through the curtain at the carriage driver. He tells her that as long as the driver is there, they'll be safe. Fina is surprised he noticed her. Jirei says she's very skilled, and if she alone was enough for protection, then hiring adventurers means Fina didn't want the driver to fight, because doing so would reveal her identity. Fina says he's right, but insists it's not that she doesn't trust him. She says she heard Jirei is a D-rank adventurer, but he doesn't act like one. Jirei says he's just good at observing people and asks about the kind of person Fina is looking for. Fina becomes excited and talks about the person she's searching for. She says it's a precious memory and normally wouldn't talk about it. But since Jirei has black hair, she'll make an exception. Jirei says she's too close, but she keeps talking. She says that when she was 6 years old, she met a black-haired person who saved her like a prince from a fantasy story. She even received her ring of transformation from him, and he promised to marry her. She talks for 3 hours about how cool he is and how he said he would become a hero. Jirei nods but doesn't really listen. Fina asks if he's even paying attention and says she has high expectations for the black-haired hero. Then her stomach growls and she becomes embarrassed. She apologizes, saying she talked too much. She was planning to stop and set up camp later, but Jirei remembers he still has snacks from before. He pulls them from his item box and offers them to her. Fina is shocked by his use of spatial magic and asks how he can use it. Jirei says he didn't know it was rare and just learned it on his own. Fina looks at him with pity. She sees the snacks and is amazed. They're charted snacks that always sell out quickly. Jirei says someone sends them to him regularly to thank him. He doesn't like sweets, but they keep sending them anyway, and Fina envies him. Jirei gives her the snacks and tells her to eat them since her stomach made noise. Outside the carriage window, Reddy is watching and wants snacks too. Jirei offers them and Fina says they should all take a break. Reddy eats the snacks happily and Jirei shares them with Eve, Lena, and the other adventurers. They thank him. Jirei asks Kane if he wants one, but Kane tells him to be quiet and looks grumpy. Jerry figures Kane is still mad, but puts a snack next to him anyway and says he can toss it if he doesn't want it, and to let him know what he thinks if he eats it. Kane wonders why Jerry is being nice to someone like him after everything, and acts like he already forgave him. At night, while the party camps out, an adventurer named Wed wakes up Jirei and tells him it is time to switch shifts and keep watch. Jirei gets up still feeling sleepy, and says he forgot he had the late night shift because he listened to Fina's stories in the carriage. She gave him a high-class dinner as thanks, and it was so good that he slept really well. Wid tells him not to let his guard down even if it is late, and mentions something about an angel. Jirei asks what he means, and Wed says he only managed to control himself because he has a wife, then tells Jirei to be careful and walks off. Jirei wonders what that was about and sees Fina keeping watch near the camp. Fina greets him, and Jirei asks what she is doing there. She pouts and asks why she cannot be there, which makes Jirei panic and try to explain. Fina laughs and says she wanted to try standing guard since she does not get to go outside much. And this is a good experience for her. She asks if it is okay. Jirei figures out Wednesday was talking about Fina and tells her that if monsters appear, things will get dangerous. Fina says she looks weak, but she is actually strong. Jerry says she can stay and thinks that going along with the client's idea is also part of being an adventurer, and he cannot say much because of his rank. He asks if her guard knows she is there. Fina freezes and says her guard is understanding, so she would not mind, but Jirei knows she snuck out without permission. Fina says he can leave the watch to her since he must be tired, and adds that there are no C rank or higher monsters out, so it should be fine. Jirei says he will still stay because he would worry otherwise. He uses his detection magic to check the area and starts to wonder how Fina knows the monster situation. He figures out she must be using detection magic too. His magic picks up something moving in the bushes. He throws a stone and a rabbit jumps out. Clearly frightened, Jirei picks it up and sees that it is a drooping rabbit, a D-rank monster. He says they are rare to see because they usually hide so fast. Fina calls it cute. Jirei asks if this is her first time seeing one, and she says it is. He explains that its meat and parts are valuable, takes out a knife and tells her to look away. Fina looks horrified, and Jirei says he is not going to hurt it. He raises his arm and asks if she wants to pet it. Fina smiles and asks if that is okay. She pets the rabbit, puts it in her lap, and says it is very fluffy. Jirei notices she is wearing a necklace and asks about it. Fina says it is her treasure. She dropped it earlier, but someone kind returned it. Jirei realizes that the necklace he picked up must have been hers. He thought it was someone else's because the person had white hair. Fina says the necklace has a photo inside. Jirei asks if it is the black-haired person she talked about in the carriage, and Fina says yes. She says every time she sees it, she thinks of that person. Jirei figures she is about to go on again about her precious person. Fina says she sometimes gets scared wondering if the person is still alive. She has been waiting for 9 years. Jirei tells her that he believes the black-haired hero is alive, even though he has no way to prove it. Fina thanks him and says he is kind. Jirei gets flustered and says he is a kind and handsome guy who just prefers sleeping and doing nothing. If he could, he would stay at home forever. Fina says that is not a good idea, but Jirei says doing just enough to live is good enough, and he lives without stress. Fina says she wants to be free too, without thinking about her status. Jirei says that since she chose that path, it is fine to follow her heart and marry the black-haired hero. Fina is happy and says maybe she will meet him again and it will work out. She says she is reckless enough to try. Jirei tells her not to worry about it so much. She waited 9 years already, so it is okay to be a little selfish. Fina says she is surprised she opened up this much to someone like Jirei. He tells her she can keep talking to him if she wants, and if she has any worries, he will listen. Fina jumps up happily and says she wants to talk more about the black-haired hero. Jirei says only for a little while, little. Several days pass after taking the request, and not much has happened. The other adventurers dealt with all the monsters, so Jirei has just been relaxing. After leaving the forest, they spot a village nearby and decide to rest there for the night. When they reach the village entrance, there are no guards. Fina thinks that is strange and says they should check inside. As they walk around, they do not see any villagers. Then, an old man comes out of a building and asks if they are adventurers. Fina asks what happened and where everyone is. The old man says all the villagers were kidnapped. The old man explains what happened to the villagers. He says he was only staying in the village for a short while and everything happened a few days ago. A group of monsters arrived alongside men wearing black masks. They took all the food, supplies, and valuable metals from the village, and then they kidnapped the villagers. The attackers got past the gate guards by threatening a merchant and hiding inside one of the merchant's cargo carts. The villagers could not call for help because their communication tool did not reach far enough, so contacting the neighboring country was impossible until the party arrived. No one was able to help. Wed guesses that the attackers might be bandit beast tamers. Eve gets upset hearing the story. Fina says that slavery was officially abolished in the Hurt continent a few years ago and wonders if something else is going on. Jirei confirms that slavery still exists on other continents. He says that especially in the Bestia continent where beast folk still live, hatred toward humans is still strong because humans once invaded and took their land during a past war. Because of that, human slaves could be sold there for high prices. The reason the old man was not taken is because his legs no longer work, so the kidnappers probably thought he had no value. Jirei then asks Fina what she wants to do next. Fina seems confused by the question, so Jerry explains that their job was only to escort her to Italy. Anything beyond that depends on her decision as the client. He says that if they leave now, they might still be able to catch up to the kidnappers and rescue the villagers. Fina says they cannot leave the villagers behind and decides they will go rescue them. Everyone agrees. Wed asks how they are supposed to start tracking the kidnappers. Jirei is about to speak, but Fina quickly offers to use her clairvoyance ability. However, her guard steps forward and urges her not to use it. Fina says there are human lives at stake, and they cannot just ignore it. Her guard warns her that if she uses her ability, she will no longer be able to stay hidden. Jirei says she does not have to use her magic because he has a tool that can help them. He pulls out a magic item from his item box. Both the guard and Fina are surprised, and Fina asks how he managed to get such a rare item. Jirei says he just happened to pick it up somewhere. He uses it and locates the kidnappers hiding in a cave in the forest. He says they have not gone far. Fina takes the item and looks through it. She sees that the villagers match the old man's description and seem to be safe. Wed also uses it and spots monsters stronger than B rank. He counts more than 60 of them. He says a direct assault will be tough and dangerous. Fina points out that the kidnappers might use the villagers as hostages, so a stealth rescue might be safer. Wed suggests creating a distraction to rescue the villagers. He says it will be hard to keep the kidnappers distracted for long, but a few minutes should be enough. Lena questions why they are avoiding a direct fight. She says if they let the kidnappers escape, they will just do this again, so they should wipe them out now. Everyone hesitates, unsure of what to do. Jirei asks why they are all acting confused. He says there is no need to overthink it. Since they have Retinoa, the attack hero, they can go with a head-on assault. Everyone suddenly remembers that Retinoa really is the attack hero and not just someone who acts silly. Rei smiles, not understanding what is going on. At the cave entrance, the kidnappers are panicking and trying to flee. They cannot figure out why they are being attacked so suddenly. Lena uses flame magic to block their escape. Flames cover the area around them. Wed swings his weapon and strikes down several wolves. One of the kidnappers orders the wolves to attack Reddy, but she defeats them with a single swing of her sword and says it is way too easy. Jirei sits on top of the cave roof using gravitation magic. He watches the others fight and comments on how strong they are. As a D-rank adventurer, he was told to stay back and guard the area, which he does not mind since he never feels like fighting anyway. He notices that the kidnappers' masks have a skull design. He remembers seeing the same kind of mask in the past when he saved someone as a kid. He starts to think about the past, but tells himself that it is odd to remember something like that now. Just to be safe, he uses his detection magic to scan the area. He checks on the group rescuing the villagers and sees that things are going well. He looks back toward the battlefield. Kane is fighting one of the wolves and does not notice a kidnapper sneaking up behind him. The attacker gets ready to strike, and Kane notices it too late. Before the knife reaches him, Jirei uses his marionette magic to freeze the kidnapper in place and forces him to stab himself instead. Kane is confused and wonders what just happened. As he gets distracted, the wolf lunges at him, but Kane quickly reacts and finishes it off. Jirei is impressed by Kane's reflexes. He expected Kane to be just a B rank on paper, but his movement is closer to a solid C rank. Still, Jirei wonders why Kane isn't using body-strengthening magic. It's one of the basics for any swordsman since it enhances both movement and swordsmanship. Without it, Kane's having a hard time with just one wolf. Jirei also realizes that Kane isn't using any detection magic either. He figures it might be because of Kane's school background. He's been through similar restrictions himself, especially during his training in binding techniques. Just then, Raid defeats the last of the wolves. Lena says it ended faster than she expected, and Wed adds that they should regroup with the rescue team. Now Jirei watches Reddy's group leave and stops using his gravitational magic. He walks deeper into the cave where the villagers were being held. The tunnel appears to be a dead end, but Jirei finds a hidden magic circle on the wall. He uses his magic to dispel it, revealing a large transfer circle behind it. He mutters that he should wrap this up quickly and get back to the others. Meanwhile, one of the kidnappers flees from the cave. He panics, wondering how the attack hero ended up here and how their plan is now completely ruined. He rushes to a hidden area with another transfer circle and pulls out an item, planning to activate it and escape to a different location. Before he can use it, though, he's hit with Jirai's paralysis magic. He collapses and drops the item, which turns out to be a set of 10 subordination bells. Jirei walks over and picks them up, saying that the kidnapper sure has some nasty tools. With those bells, he could have easily controlled a huge number of monsters. Jirei looks around and sees wolves beginning to gather in the area. The kidnapper asks why Jerry is there, and Jerry answers that he followed him through the transfer circle in the cave. The kidnapper is shocked, saying he used concealment magic to hide it. Jirei mocks the poor quality of the magic, saying it was too sloppy to fool him. The kidnapper is stunned. He's a former A-rank magic adventurer, and only a handful of people should have been able to see through that spell. Jirei says he had been wondering how the kidnappers planned to transport the villagers across continents. Moving that many people past the border would be impossible. The only option would have been a large transfer magic circle. He confirms that this one leads to the Bestia continent and immediately destroys it. The kidnapper is horrified. Jirei not only discovered the circle, but analyzed, interfered, and dismantled it like it was nothing. Jirei pulls out the skull-marked mask he stored earlier and asks if the man is a survivor of the Skull Brigade. The kidnapper is shocked that he knows the name. Jirei realizes he guessed right. He thought he had wiped them all out years ago, but was clearly careless. As he prepares to leave, the kidnapper feels the paralysis magic wearing off and tries to escape. Jirei casually warns him not to move, but it's too late. The kidnapper screams in pain. Jirei explains that the paralysis he used carries poison, and if he moves, it spreads through his body, causing agony. He adds that the poison will finish him off in a few minutes, so trying to run is pointless. The kidnapper panics and begs Jirei to save him. Jirei asks if he swears to turn himself into the knights and change his ways. The man desperately swears he will. Jirei places his hand on him and the kidnapper smiles, thinking he's been forgiven, but Jirei grabs his hair roughly and glares at him. He tells him he decided long ago never to believe people like him again. Jirei asks if the kidnapper knows what happens to human slaves in the Bestia continent. They are tortured so badly that they wish they were never born. No one comes to help. No one cares. Jirei throws him to the ground and says he doesn't deserve any mercy. As Jirei walks away, the kidnapper throws one of the subordination bells at him in desperation. The surrounding monsters start rushing toward Jirei to attack. The kidnapper laughs and says he'll take Jirei down with him, but Jirei calmly uses word magic and commands the monsters to stop and move aside. The monsters immediately freeze and make a path for him. The kidnapper watches in disbelief as Jirei walks through them, smiling coldly, and mutters that he must be the Demon Lord. Jirei uses word magic to make the monster move out of his way, then pulls a coat from his item box and puts it on. He says some cringy lines like, "Tonight, the darkness is deep," and acts like a demon lord. But when he gets back to the base where the party is, he feels embarrassed about what he did. Wade asks him if something's wrong and if he's feeling sick, but Jirei just says he's fine. Wed walks off while munching on some meat, and Jirei thinks back on everything. A few hours earlier, he had chased a survivor from a human trafficking group, following him through a transfer magic circle the man had set up. After that, it had been a while since his cringy side, part of a long-time illness from childhood, woke up again. Jirei decides to forget about it and looks over at the party the villagers have thrown. They wanted to celebrate being rescued and show their appreciation, so they made a ton of food and planned to have fun. While eating some meat, Jirei notices Kane walking away from the party and wonders what's going on with him. He approaches Kane and asks if he's not eating, but Kane tells him to leave him alone. Jirei asks if he's not hungry, and Kane says he doesn't have the right to eat. Jirei wants to know what he means, and Kane says he couldn't do anything during the battle in the cave. The hero and other adventurers took down all the wolves, while he struggled with just one and got in their way. Jirei laughs and tells him not to worry because he was just house-sitting, while Kane at least joined the fight, which is more than he did. Kane gets mad, yelling at Jirei not to make fun of him. He says he's the third son of the Stahl's family, and that unlike Jirei, an adventurer with no obligations, he's better and different. Kane falls to the ground, thinking to himself that he has no talent at all. People have told him in the past that he's a disgrace to the Stahl's family and should be grateful just to be alive. Kane was born without magic, which was considered a condition. Since magic is necessary to become a swordsman, he had to rely on his physical body, but still couldn't catch up to his brothers. His father gave him a gift by assigning him a high adventurer rank, but Cain knew it was just to maintain the family's reputation. He ended up joining a party of high-ranked adventurers with a rank that was just for show. Cain hoped to grow stronger and prove himself so he could earn a place where he belonged. After a while, some adventurers came up to Cain, asking if he was the B-rank adventurer who was recruiting. They were mostly D-rank or lower, but Cain accepted them, saw them as friends, and enjoyed going on adventures with them. One day, though, he overheard them calling him an idiot. They joked about how Cain paid for all their equipment just because they were friends, and how easy it was to ask him for more by pretending the gear was for family when it broke. One of them laughed about how Cain always said things like, "We're comrades," and how naive that was. Cain got upset and ran off, shouting to the sky that he really thought of them as comrades and calling them trash. He said they were just parasites clinging to high-ranking adventurers, and that low ranks were nothing but trash. Back in the present, Jerry starts walking away, telling Cain that if he changes his mind, he should come back. But if he takes too long, Jerry will eat all the food. Then he remembers something, pulls out a bag of snacks from his item box and gives it to Cain. He says he wants to know what Cain thinks of them and tells him to taste them properly and share his opinion. Cain asks why Jirei even cares and calls him a D-rank. Back at the party, Jirei says Cain must have a tough life too, and that being laid back like him is fine sometimes. Still, he's curious what a noble thinks of the snacks. The next day, after dealing with the kidnappers and enjoying the feast, they continue escorting Fina to Ital. During lunch, everyone relaxes in their own way. As always, Jirei looks for a quiet spot to enjoy a peaceful nap. After a while, Ray, Lena, and Eve are playing in the river nearby, wearing swimsuits. Ray tries catching a fish and wonders if they can eat it, then quickly catches one. Jerry wakes up and sees the three girls playing in the water right in front of him, and the skin-cold scenery hides him as part of the background. Lena says it feels great to wash up at least once a day, and Eve replies that while cleanse magic gets rid of dirt, it still feels gross. Ray is just playing around trying to catch some fish for lunch. Jirei thinks to himself that this is a bad situation. He had just come here to take a nap, and to avoid getting disturbed, he used camouflage magic so they wouldn't see him. The problem is, if he moves even a little, the magic will cancel and they'll think he was spying on them. While Lena is chatting with Eve and Reddy, she says that their escort client is kind of unusual. Despite being a noble, she's not arrogant, and because of her family situation, she insisted on bathing alone. Lena then remembers that Reddy and Eve are also nobles. Eve says she was adopted into a noble family, and Reddy says she probably was too. Lena is surprised and asks how she doesn't know her own family background. Then she turns to Eve and says that she thought Eve didn't like being friends with others, but now she's talking to them, which makes her happy. Eve tells her to stop talking so much. Then Eve turns around and asks Lena if they're really safe from being seen by anyone. Jirei starts to panic. Lena assures her it's fine, saying she checked the area with detection magic and didn't find anyone around. She also set up a barrier so no one can get through. Eve still worries that someone might show up, but Lena says there's no way unless someone used extremely high-level disguise magic. Jirei thinks to himself that his camouflage magic is exactly that, which really sucks for him right now. Lena asks Eve why she's so worried when they're just wearing swimsuits anyway, and jokes about whether Eve has a crush on someone. Eve gets embarrassed and denies it, saying she's just normal and believes a girl should only show herself to someone she likes. Someone once told her that people don't like girls who don't take care of themselves. Lena says that Eve definitely has someone she likes, and she's kind of jealous that Eve can say she's a normal girl. Lena then asks hypothetically what Eve would do if someone did see them. Eve says that she'd make sure they regretted being born. That makes Jir panic again and accidentally let out a small noise. Lena hears something and wonders what it was. Eve starts getting suspicious, but Lena reassures her that there's no way anyone's there. Jirei stays frozen and thinks that he's really in trouble now. They'll find him any second since they know where the sound came from. He realizes he has no choice but to do something fast. He quickly transforms into a drooping rabbit using magic and tries to escape. But Eve and Lena catch him almost immediately and start touching him. Lena says it's rare to catch one of these rabbits, and Reddy returns with a big fish, excited that they'll have both fish and meat for lunch. Jirei panics even more because his transformation magic is weak, and he can only hold it for about 3 minutes. Eve pets him, saying how cute he is, but he runs off before the transformation breaks. Eve is disappointed. Jirei turns back into himself once he's safely away and says, "That was way too close." He hopes nobody found out and that his dignity is still intact. As he's walking, he notices a gathering of spirits in one area. He spots a girl swimming and talking to the spirits while showing her body. Jirei is shocked by the sight and thinks it's like something out of a fairy tale. He describes her as having beautiful white hair, ruby red eyes, and smooth skin. He gets flustered and tells himself that it's wrong to keep looking. He turns away and walks off. Finally stepping out of the barrier magic, he wonders who that mysterious girl was, and if she's part of their group. 5 days have passed since they took on the escort quest. Wed calls out to Jirei, inviting him to play cards. Jirei says he doesn't want to because he always loses and suspects Wed is cheating. Wed plays innocent and Fina laughs at them. Jirei thinks everyone is too relaxed and wonders if they forgot they're still on an escort mission. He reminds himself that they're almost at it, and the scouts should be returning soon. It feels like the quest is almost over. Just then, one of the scouts comes running toward them, shouting that something bad has happened. Fina and Jirei both turn to him, asking what's going on. Fina tells him to calm down and explain, and the scout says that monsters have taken over. The party moves closer to Eel to see what is going on, and they spot zombies, skeletons, and wraiths. Lena says she can sense undead energy coming from the entire city, and Jirei notices that the monsters aren't able to pass through the city's barrier. One of the party members says it would be hard to defeat all of the monsters, and thinks that something like this couldn't have happened naturally. They wonder if the monsters used to be the people who lived in Ital. Eve agrees, saying it has to be the former residents because it's impossible to summon that many monsters, and it would take too much energy to keep casting that magic over and over again. Fina says it's alright, and believes the black-haired hero must be hiding somewhere safe, but she doesn't look well. Lena questions how she can say something like that when the truth is right in front of them, and says no one could have survived something like this. Kane says they need to leave right away and tells everyone to run. Wed tells him that if he wants to run, he can, since he's still young and nobody will blame him. Kane gets upset and asks what they should do, shouting that even if they try to fight, they'll just get eliminated. Wed says maybe it won't change much, but right now the monsters are trapped inside Ital because of the barrier. He asks what will happen if that barrier fails. Kane suddenly realizes what Wed means, and Wed explains that the monsters will head straight for the nearest villages, towns, or even other countries. If they want to rescue people, they'll need to buy some time. He mentions that Universa Kingdom is nearby and says his family lives there, so running isn't an option for him. He asks Jirei if he and Kane can escort Fina back to Universa and ask for reinforcements, while he tells Reddy and the rest of the adventurers that they need to stay and hold off the monsters. Fina says she'll stay too because there's something she has to confirm no matter what. Kane yells at them, asking why they aren't running and whether they're not scared of dying. Wed admits he's afraid of the monsters, but says what scares him more is losing the people he loves. Kane starts thinking this might be his last shot at changing himself, and if he fights alongside them and defeats the monsters, maybe he can finally gain real friends he can count on. He asks if he can help, surprising the whole group. Wed says Kane has courage, and everyone seems happy. Jirei thinks that if no one else is backing out, then he'll have to fight too, though he still wishes he could just leave. Wed turns to Jirei and asks if he's joining them, and Jirei says he will since everyone else is in. Wed says they need a plan, and Eve brings up that whoever turned the people into monsters is probably still nearby. She says that while fighting the monsters is one thing, finding the person who did this is a different issue. Wed suggests using Jirei's magic tool to locate them, but Jirei explains that he's already been using it and hasn't found anyone. He says if they had access to the highest level of detection magic, it would be easier. That's when Fina says she has an idea and removes her ring. Her guard tries to stop her, but it's too late. Fina introduces herself as Rafine Odium Refinado and says she'll search for the person using her clairvoyance ability. Her appearance changes as soon as she removes the ring, and everyone is surprised. Lena asks if she's really the princess. Rafine confirms it, saying she hadn't wanted to reveal her identity, but given the circumstances, she has no choice. Jirei remembers the name Rafine. Before he accepted the escort quest, people in the Universia Kingdom were shouting her name and looking for her. He looks at her and thinks she's not only beautiful like a flower, but also intelligent enough to use clairvoyance, the kingdom's top-level detection magic. To him, she's more like an idol than a princess, being friendly with everyone and having multiple fan clubs. He also remembers the day they took a break in the forest and saw someone bathing and talking to spirits. Now he realizes that it was her and decides to keep that to himself. Rafine's guard asks her if she really understands what she's doing by revealing her true identity. Rafine uses her voice magic on her guard, Cheon, to quiet her. She tells everyone that there's no point in hiding who she is anymore and asks if it's okay to use clairvoyance. Lena agrees, and Rafine starts casting the spell with a long chant. Jirei watches her and is amazed. Normally, the chant for clairvoyance is really long, but Rafine manages to control a massive amount of magic power with ease, and could possibly rival an S-rank magician. Jirei remembers trying to learn clairvoyance once, but gave up since it required too much reading. And he's more of a hands-on learner. Then, he figures that since Rafine is right there, he might as well observe and try to imitate her. He focuses on sensing the magic and using just the right amount of mana. And before long, he also activates clairvoyance. Right after that, he notices someone behind him and is confused, thinking there's no way he found someone that quickly since no one else has picked up on it. He realizes that Rafine's clairvoyance didn't detect the monster because its level is much higher than hers. The monster decides that it's time to strike the party. The monster steps out from the bushes where he was hiding and introduces himself as Karifs, the Death Eater, one of the 4 heavenly kings who serve the Demon Lord. He tells the party to come and embrace eternal sleep at his hands, acting like a typical evil villain before the main character shows up to defeat him. The group is caught off guard, and Rafine asks why her clairvoyance didn't detect him. Karifs mocks them, calling them pathetic and saying there's no way a weak ability like that could pick up on him. He says he only revealed himself because they failed to find him, then laughs at them. One of the adventurers launches an attack using Void Blade Decapitation, but the strike fails. Karf's barrier blocks it completely. He mocks the adventurer, asking if he's swinging around a toy sword, then says he hates people like him. Karifs unleashes his own attack. At first, it looks like nothing happened, but then a hole appears in the adventurer's stomach. Jirei is shocked. Karf calls them weak humans and tells them to stop defying someone who is clearly a higher being. Rafine quickly calls for recovery magic, and Eve responds using High Heal to treat the wound. Jirei realizes that Karf had fired a magic bullet, and that he barely managed to intercept it in time to reduce the damage. Still, the situation is bad. The healing magic is working, but unless the adventurer gets to a hospital soon, things could turn worse. Karf asks if they understand the situation they're in now. That's when Reddy steps forward and declares she'll be his opponent. She says she'll defeat him using her holy sword, though she can't remember the sword's name. Karf asks if she's the current generation's hero. She says yes, then casually points at Jirei and says he's her teacher and much stronger than she is. Karf doesn't believe it. He says the fun's over and it's time to stop playing around, especially since someone's trying to buy time. He calls out Lenny, saying she's been gathering mana, and asks if she thought he wouldn't notice. Lenny is startled. Karf says he needs to report back to the Demon Lord and doesn't have time to waste. He declares that the Demon Lord will be pleased with him for wiping out, and says that the black-haired hero is already dead and that he's taken the entire city. Rafine is shocked and asks if he's lying. She insists that the black-haired hero must still be alive. Karf denies it and tells them to look at a nearby building. They all turn to see the black-haired hero slumped in a chair, motionless. Rafine is horrified. Karf says the hero was weak, that even with divine protection, he was just another bug. Rafine falls to her knees and says it's not possible, that he was her hero, her fated one. Cheon tries to shake her back to her senses and insists the demon is lying. Kifs, tired of the delays, says he's going to finish things. He casts excess gravity, forcing everyone to the ground, their bodies pinned down under intense weight. He laughs, saying they can't escape now. Jirei thinks the skeleton monster's power is way above what he expected. Even the A-rank adventurers and the hero Rei are useless against him. He didn't want to stand out and had stayed a D rank to live lazily, but he realizes now is not the time for that. He decides to show them what the main character can really do. While the others are still being crushed under the gravity magic, Jirei stands up. Karis is shocked and wonders how he's moving. Thinking maybe he forgot to target Jirei, he casts the gravity spell again, but Jirei doesn't budge. Karf demands to know why it's not working and asks if Jirei is using a magic tool to block it. Jirei tells him he isn't. Karf is furious and says he's going to take Jirei out. Painfully, he casts Abyssal Black Flame, summoning a small black orb that floats toward Jirei. Wed yells at Jirei to dodge, but Jirei just touches it, and black flames swirl everywhere. Everyone panics, but Jirei tells them to stop yelling. It's annoying. The black flames swirl around him without doing any damage. Everyone is stunned. Jirei says he'll be fine since he survived a dragon's breath before. Wed asks if he's still alive, and Jirei shrugs it off, saying he is for now. He grabs the swirling black flames and casually throws them away, which stuns Karfs. Kif says it's impossible for someone to just brush off his magic like that. He tries a different attack, Calamity Water Dragon, but Jer just slaps it away. Kif switches to Earth Magic, Life-Reaping Stone Coffin, and Jirei kicks it aside. Then he uses Wind Magic, Storm of Annihilation, and Jirei simply blows on it. Karf is speechless and asks what's wrong with him. Frustrated, he says he'll use the one spell he didn't want to. He begins chanting a super long incantation and casts Eclipse Catastrophe, unleashing a massive black sphere above the city. Wed sees it and is instantly terrified. Wed says it's all over and that if the fireball hits them, no one will survive. What he doesn't know is that the main character can easily handle it. Jirei calmly says it's fine and uses his magic skill interference to erase the massive black ball from the sky. Wed and Karf are both stunned. Karf stammers, asking what, why, and how it happened. Unable to form a proper sentence, he admits he doesn't understand and asks if Jirei is even human. Jirei replies that he is. He looks human and even calls himself handsome. Jir then asks Carface if he's out of mana, and Karf is visibly shocked. As Jir starts walking toward him, Carface panics, saying there's no way he could lose to a human. Suddenly, he gets an idea and uses his magic to pull Kane in front of Jirei as a shield. Kane panics, saying he can't control his body. It's moving on its own. Karifs laughs and says he used manipulation magic with what little mana he had left. Since Kane has barely any mana, he was easy to control. He taunts Jirei, saying that now that his friend is a hostage, he can't do anything. Jirei calmly says that Kane isn't really his friend, which stuns Kane. Carface asks if they're really not friends, and Kane seems confused too. Wed tells Jirei to stop joking around, but Jirei says their relationship only exists because of the escort quest. He calls Kane just an acquaintance, a stranger, not a friend. Both Wed and Karf are taken aback. Karf calls him a demon and says he's a horrible person. Then he comes up with another plan. What if he takes more people hostage? What if every citizen in Italade on Jirei? Wed asks what he means, questioning whether any of the citizens are still alive. Jirei realizes what Karfs did and uses falsehood barrier magic. He explains that this magic can turn lies into truths in a certain area if specific conditions are met. Conditions like a red sky, collapsed buildings, lots of blood and flesh. And he had set the reversal of life and death as the condition. Jirei says Karf has bad taste. Karf laughs and asks if Jirei doesn't want to save the people in the city. Rafine begs Jirei to save them. She's crying and asks if it's even possible. Kifs taunts them, asking if there's anyone in the city they'd want to save. Rafine says that if the black-haired hero isn't there, then nothing matters. If he could come back to life, she would do anything. She keeps begging Jirei to save them. Jirei thinks she must be talking about the person who had just been eliminated, but he also believes that the divine protection from the Holy Mark should have kept that hero safe inside the barrier. He asks Rafine if she really means it when she says she'll do anything. She gets scared, but Jirei tells her she doesn't need to go that far. He'll save them. He casts Purify Undead magic across the entire city, breaking Karfas's spell. The citizens wake up confused, wondering if they just had a nightmare. Even the black-haired hero wakes up thinking he had just fallen asleep. Kifs is in disbelief. asking what Jirei did and why his barrier disappeared. Jirei explains that to remove the falsehood barrier, all he had to do was change the conditions. He used a slightly altered version of turn undead to clear the sky and repair the damaged city, which reversed the effects and brought everyone back to life. Karfs is stunned that Jirei makes it sound so easy. He says he has to escape now and threatens to take Kane down with him if Jirei tries anything. But Kane speaks up, telling Jirei not to worry about him. Rather than being a burden, he says he'd rather be eliminated along with Kars. Karf is thrown off and asks what he's talking about. Kane admits that throughout his life, no one needed him, and he doesn't mind dying here. Jirei says he's not planning on letting him die. While it's true that Kane is selfish and only thinks of himself, Jirei says he still needs him. Then he uses an overpowered magic spell, saying he won't let Kane be eliminated. In one strike, he takes down Karafs. The monster disappears, and with that, the gravity spell on the party fades. They can finally move again. Jirei casually says that it's Raphael over, and Wed runs up and hugs him. He tells Jirei he's insanely strong, and asks why he's still at D rank. He really thought they were done for. Rafine, watching it all, realizes that even if the monster had been weakened, Jirei still destroyed its protective barrier and defeated it in a single attack. She thinks he must be extremely powerful. Reddy proudly calls him her master. Jirei tells everyone to give him some space. He wonders if it would have been better to just walk away instead of fighting, then calls them all annoying. Still, he laughs, saying it felt kind of good to do it. Suddenly, though, he senses a strong aura nearby. It's not aimed at him. He looks around to find the target and sees a ball of magic flying toward Rafine. Jirei rushes over and pushes her to the ground just in time to save her. He realizes the attack came from one of the party members. He wonders if it was Lena, who shares the same last name as a known family of assassins. He questions why she would target Rafine. Before he can say or do anything else, he checks on Rafine, asking if she's okay. She says she is and asks if he's hurt. Jirei notices his clothes got burned while shielding her. He takes off his shirt to grab a new one. Rafine gets flustered, but notices a scar on his chest. She suddenly realizes that Jirei might be someone she met in the past. The story shifts to 9 years in the past, when Rafine was still a child. She's playing tag with some of the palace maids and taps one of them, telling her she's it now. She dashes off laughing, while the maid complains that the plates she was carrying are now all broken. Back then, Rafine behaved like any childish girl, often causing trouble around the royal palace. Her father, King Paler Odium Refinado, adored her, and no matter what mischief she caused, she was never punished. But there was a reason behind her constant pranks. Rafine once approached her older sister and asked if she wanted to play, but her sister dismissed her coldly, calling her dirty blood. Another sister said that she would never play with an unofficial child like Rafine, warning that even being near her would make her dirty. Alone in her room, Rafine played with her stuffed bear and wondered why none of her sisters wanted to be with her. Her father was always too busy, and she cried, asking herself if she had done something wrong. She was always by herself and wanted someone to notice her. Because she was so lonely, she began playing pranks just to get attention. Over time, she developed a habit of sneaking out of the royal castle and heading into the forest nearby, where she had built her own secret base. One day, she used voice magic to command a maid to stop in her tracks, then made her way into the forest again. Excited, she proudly declared that she'd successfully escaped the castle once more. But near her base, she spotted a boy doing exercises and wondered who he was. He had black hair and wore a strange mask. The boy sensed someone nearby and warned them to show themselves, threatening to come over if they didn't. Rafine, scared, didn't answer, so the boy ran toward her and soon realized it was just a little girl. He told her this wasn't a place for a child and she should go home before her parents got worried. Rafine argued that this was her place and told the boy to leave. He said it wasn't like she owned the land, so why should he? She insisted that it was her secret base and tried to use voice magic to make him leave, but it didn't work. Surprised, the boy asked if she'd done something to him. Rafine was confused as to why her magic hadn't worked, and the boy, thinking maybe he'd been too harsh, apologized. When Rafine began to cry, he told her not to cry and offered to tell her a story. Her tears stopped, and the boy shared several tales, ones more exciting than anything she'd ever heard at the palace. Rafine was captivated. When he finished, he asked if she'd stopped crying, but Rafine replied that she was still crying and asked him to tell her more. He said that was enough for the day and that it was getting late, so she should go home. Smiling, Rafine promised to see him again tomorrow. From that day on, she visited the forest every day, and the boy always had a story to share. Out of all of them, her favorite was the one where a hero defeats the demon lord, saves the world, and marries a princess. Rafine asked if she could become a princess like the one in the story, but the boy said she definitely couldn't. Offended, she asked why, and he said it was because the princess in the story spoke politely, unlike her. Annoyed, Rafine adjusted her tone and tried to speak more formally, which made the boy laugh. She wanted things to stay like this forever. But one day everything changed. When Rafine arrived at her secret base like usual, she was suddenly ambushed by a group of kidnappers. They handed money to someone who had given them information about her and assumed she must be from a noble family. They planned to ask for a ransom or sell her for even more money. Scared, Rafine shouted at them and used voice magic to stop one of the men from moving. It worked briefly, and she tried to run away, but another one struck her from behind. Dazed and in pain, Rafine realized she couldn't control that many people at once. The leader of the group said he had changed his mind about letting her go and would sell her instead. He said she'd never see her parents again and ordered the others to cover her mouth and shove her in a bag. Just as Rafine cried for help, the boy from before appeared and asked what was going on. In a flash, he took down the surrounding kidnappers, leaving only the leader standing. The man drew his sword and charged at the boy, knocking his weapon away. He mocked the boy for trying to play hero for the sake of a little brat. The boy calmly asked why someone so strong would choose this kind of life. He said the man clearly had other options. So why do this? The kidnapper sneered, asking if the boy was begging for his life. The boy denied it and said he just didn't understand why someone with the power to live honestly would choose to hurt others and steal from the weak. The man replied that he did it because it was fun. He said living a normal life was boring and that the strong should do whatever they want. To him, life was about crushing the weak. He attacked again, but the boy stopped the sword with his bare hand. The man was stunned. The boy said he understood what kind of person he was now. Then he broke the sword with his hand and grabbed the man by the neck. The man cursed at him, but the boy calmly told him to swear that he'd surrender to the Chihuahuac order and regret what he'd done. If he did, the boy promised to spare him. The man quickly agreed and begged for forgiveness, swearing he'd live a proper life. He admitted that he had been a terrible person, willing to hurt and rob others without remorse. As the boy turned around, he noticed that the kidnappers' gang had gotten back up and were stepping on the bag where Rafine was trapped.